Well, the schedule release now gets 3 straight days of coverage. Peter King's been covering the NFL since the early 90s. 29 years of Pro Football Hall of Fame since 1992, Board of Selectors. So I was just talking about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, and he'll never sell. It's his toy. Jeannie Buss has said she'll never sell the Lakers. It's the family, the crown jewel of the family. But I do believe NFL teams, along with English Premier League teams, are where the global's richest people want to put their money. What is your thought about the $10 billion price tag Jerry said the Cowboys are worth, Peter?
Unsurprising. And look, Forbes magazine came out a couple of months ago and said that their current value is $6.5 billion. Now, and that's the biggest among sports franchises. But there's a difference between the current value and what something would sell for.
That's right.
If it was on the open market.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd get $10 billion. I mean, I don't doubt it, but I don't know that. All I know is there are a finite number of entities and products that are the Dallas Cowboys, that are the New York Yankees, that are whatever, the Los Angeles Lakers, whatever you would talk about, the Green Bay Packers. And the point is, when those entities go on the market, it's different than when the Carolina Panthers go on the market, okay? But the reason why I wanted to write about this week is that we're all just totally ignoring the fact that in the last 5 years, the value of an NFL franchise, because the Denver Broncos are going to sell for $4.5 billion, somewhere right around there. In the last 5 years, the franchise price of a team in the NFL, not one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the NFL, but a team, has gone up 100%. And now, so if the Denver Broncos are going to sell for $4.5 million, what makes you think that the most valuable entity, the most valuable sports franchise in the United States wouldn't sell for double that? And that's why I think Jerry Jones, I don't know that he's right, but my guess is it would be somewhere between 8.5 and 10 billion.
Yeah. And by the way, the Clippers, the number 2 team in their own building, sold for $2 billion cash. People thought it was egregious, and they're now worth over $3 billion several years later. So I agree with you. I was looking at the schedule release, and the NFL's always done a great job with their calendar. They've moved free agency, so Joy and I now spend 3 weeks a year. We didn't spend March talking NFL. You were relaying a story before we went on the air. The NBA has done the best job to manipulate me as a broadcaster. They have manipulated me. They are now somewhere between 65 and 70% of my show. They were not 10 years ago. Some of that is the decline socially of baseball, which analytics has made it less, attractive to a lot of younger people, and I have young people watching. But you were talking about this during the break about the NFL was jealous of a league and did something about it.
I mean, the NFL, I started covering the NFL in 1984, the Cincinnati Bengals. And within about 10 years, they started maneuvering the schedule the exact same way. And they created a big window for free agency in March. Then they started going nuts with the draft and moved the draft later and later, and then started taking the draft on the road.
Yeah.
And when you have 600,000 people outside in Nashville, Tennessee, watching the draft live and going crazy. And so now, you have that. You have the schedule release. The NFL basically said, we are going to create a hot stove league that baseball has that we are jealous of.
Yeah.
We want to have an off season where we own the calendar. And the NFL has figured it all out. And Colin, very quietly, you know what they did last year? Do you remember last year, I think it was the last Saturday in July, they had the NFL training camp opening day in which NFL Network and ESPN went live from about, I don't know, I'm guessing 15 to 18 training camps that day. And they had all their reporters fanned out, and they made it like the opening day of a season.
Yeah.
Hey, great, football's back. They created another tentpole event in late July when nobody is thinking about pro football.
Yeah, and there used to be kind of a gentleman's agreement in sports, like NBA owned Christmas. The NFL said,
not anymore.
Yeah, hell with that. We're going to put Aaron Rodgers on Christmas. It was so funny because I've always loved Christmas Day for the NBA. I told Joy the best day in American sports now is arguably Christmas Day. I get 3 NFL games, 3 or 4 NBA games. It's like it's a smorgasbord. It's as good a day as America has. And that's, again, the NFL saying, you know what? We gave the NBA that thing for 30 years. We gave them that day. No, we're gonna go head to head, and so it's a business. They get it. I want to ask you about this. Joy and I are if we're wrong with conviction and passion, but we can't figure something out, and it's really interesting. The Niners, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance. There's multiple stories now from people I think know what they're talking about that they're having questions about Trey Lance, and it's Joy and I kept saying, why don't they let Jimmy G go after the season, clear cap space? They need another corner. They need some interior linemen. They've got some needs here if they want to get past the Rams or Tampa. What do you make? Are they having second thoughts on Trey Lance, Peter? Because it certainly feels like it to me.
Well, I think you can either say that they're having second thoughts and I think it's more likely this is true, or that they couldn't get anything for Jimmy Garoppolo after he had his shoulder surgery. And so remember last year, toward the end, right about where we were on the calendar last year at this time, where Jed York came out and said, hey, listen, if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't start, whatever happens, I'm comfortable paying the backup quarterback $24 million or whatever it was. And I think they're going to feel the same way this year because, listen, they got to the Final Four of the NFL last year, and you can say whatever you want about Jimmy Garoppolo and how they carried him, he struggled, whatever. All I know is that Jimmy Garoppolo and that defense played well enough at Green Bay on a blisteringly cold night in Green Bay last year, and they knocked Aaron Rodgers and the Packers out of the playoffs. And look, you can say, well, what plays did Jimmy Garoppolo make in that game and all that? The point is that sometimes you need your quarterback to not lose the game. And last year, Jimmy Garoppolo, on several very big occasions, piloted the team, did well enough, and didn't lose the game, and they went on. And that's why, to me, unless somebody gives San Francisco a decent offer, I will not be surprised if they do the same thing this year, with one exception. I do think that unless he is simply not ready to play, I do think the starter opening day will be Trey Lance.
Peter King. Yeah, I shortchanged it. I thought you covered the NFL since 94. You said like 84. Good Lord, you've been around for...
Yeah, it was 1984, the Bengals. Sam White, Boomer Esiason, Chris Collinsworth.
Those are fun teams. Peter, great seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Take care.
You bet. I covered Sam Weish for a year. 2 years. Sam was funny. Sam was very outspoken. Remember he grabbed a microphone once and said, we're not Cleveland? Act your age, Cincinnati, we're not Cleveland fans. That actually happened, where an NFL coach grabbed a microphone and scolded the fans.
That's your nightmare as a reporter. Is for when you're interviewing someone to grab the mic. Like, that's one of the first things that they teach you is do not let go of the microphone. Like, you'll see reporters sometimes because people, it'll be like their first time, they'll start grabbing the microphone to try and get away from you. Because once you let go of the microphone, you're never getting it back.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.